I'm going to go over a couple different ways to remove gel polish from the toenail during a pedicure service and discuss why we might choose a steam pedicure over your more traditional soaking pedicure. In the nail lab, we practiced that we would spray these feet and toes with the antiseptic foot spray and take a towel to wipe it away, get the instructor to come over and examine them. And then you would move on to the step of blue squares and acetone and thoroughly dehydrate and cleanse those nails like you're removing red polish. I want all the residue and ick off of there. In this example here, I am showing you how you can soak off the gel polish. Remember, your gel top coat is acetone resistant. So if you don't properly file and etch every little bit of that top coat, it will resist the acetone going through that layer. So it will not be able to soak off that color. I like these foils with that little cotton square in the middle. I get it good and soaked with pure acetone, and I wrap that toe like a burrito. I usually find about 12 minutes of soaking time in there is about what you need before you can start scraping it. While that is brewing, I'm going to show you how I usually remove gel polish. I know that I've left a base coat behind that I'm going to file down to. And I also know that my final step before I apply gel polish, I'm going to be hand filing and etching every bit of that nail plate. So as of now, I'm using this medium grit ceramic E-bit to remove the gel, the top coat, the 2 layers of gel polish. And again, if there's a thin coat of that base coat left behind and it's not showing any signs of discoloration or lifting or pockets, it can stay there. It can kind of grow out with the nail. Again, as long as we're maintaining properly. Consider your pattern in removal when you're doing your e-file. Have it at a speed where your pressure is light, but it's removing after 1 or 2 strokes. You shouldn't have to go over the same place repetitively. That's when you're asking for burns. If it's skipping, you need to turn up the speed. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, but the faster that E-bit is going, the less pressure you have to apply and the less likely you are to burn. So anytime you're using a dry brush, please go from the cuticle to the free edge, cuticle to free edge. Don't be pushing debris into the proximal nail folds. You'll notice I've removed the foil and I'm using my cuticle pusher in the opposite direction to carefully remove the gel. If it really, you have to tug at it, please just file it again. And in some instances, that will remove the rest of the gel like it does in this case. If there's still some leftover gel that's just not budging, re-soak the cotton square in that foil and reapply it. Give it another 10 minutes. If you can safely apply heat to acetone, it does hurry the process along. And by safely, I mean do not by any means be putting acetone in a microwave. Use a heated mitt, perhaps, a heated booty. I like to wrap the foot in a towel and just use the body heat. There's a lot of creative ways, but do be safe with that. After I've removed the gel polish, much like if I was just removing regular polish, I'm going to go through the motions of trimming the free edge of all of these nails. And we've discussed that she likes her 2 shortest ones, 2 smaller toes, those nails left a little bit longer in order to give the illusion that she's got a little more nail bed there. And as long as she's not running and jamming these into closed-toed shoes and it's not causing a problem, I have no problem letting her have her way with having a couple of her smaller toenails with a little more free edge. But traditionally, or typically rather, I really just like a thin line along that hyponychium. I like to encourage them to keep their toenails short. It is, as I think, what is healthiest and best. As you know, I like to use acrylic nippers as opposed to toenail clippers to trim the free edge. I feel like I can get a more direct and precise cut. Um, it's just what I'm more comfortable with. I love that tool. Cuticle softener I'm going to put on. By now, I've at least turned on the steamer because you'll notice I'm not using water. And make sure that you're not letting the applicator ever touch the client. I'm dropping that from a distance and using my gloved hand to rub in the cuticle softener. We don't want to cross-contaminate. The steamer should be kicking on in a little bit. In a perfect world, it would be going right about now already, so play with that timing for yourselves. Mine got shut off a little early, and I had to reset it. We're going to use a steamer to soften the skin here and there in this pedicure as opposed to soaking because we've learned with gel polish, it does last for so long. People can go months before they even think of maintaining it. And the danger of that is that gel polish can create pockets and moisture can get trapped in there. So we can see infections happening in there. We can see bacteria settling in there. So some precautions we want to take is to make sure that that nail plate is as dehydrated as it can possibly be before we're applying gel polish, and recognizing that the nail plate is kind of like a dry sponge, and when it's soaking in your traditional pedicure soak, it's absorbing all that moisture and some believe holding it in that nail plate for a good 24 hours or longer. And when we have dehydrated, we may only be dehydrating superficially, like just the top layers. So, in order to provide the safest pedicure when someone knows they want to wear gel, it behooves them to have a dry pedicure. Um, and there's many ways of going about this. One of the ways where I think it might be easiest in the nail lab is we do have the two steamers, distilled or bottled water, at least in that, and turn it on maybe about 10 minutes before you think you're going to need it. I do like to do the trimming of the free edge and some of the cuticle work before I have the steam in my face. Really, that helps me be precise. You can get it going during this part and just sort of maneuver it so it's only hitting one foot. Couple ways to climb that mountain. But if you can kind of get a sense of the client's hyponychium, where it's at, their sensitivity level before you're dealing with steam in your face and in your direct canvas that you're working on, that does kind of behoove you. This is a pumice stone sort of cuticle pusher. I love it for many of my services, and for one of them would be the dry pedicure because I can get that extra layer of the sticky cuticle that's left behind. We used to call it pterygium. It's it usually comes off when we're soaking, but in this instance, I'm going to use some of that steam and I'm going to use the angle and material of this pumice to really cleanse this nail plate and get rid of any dead skin that would get in my way of just a really good adhesion of the gel polish. You can go back and forth a little bit. I like to do sort of circular motions that seems to be the most effective. Each one of my clients has one, and I hold on to them for them, and or they can buy one. Now I'm going in and removing, as I often say, what is just dry, white, and waving at me. And it is nice to use the steam to sort of hydrate this as you're doing the cuticle work. Find what's comfortable for you. If you want to put on some of the cuticle softener and let the steam do its job for a while and then shut off the steamer before you go in for cuticle work. Certainly don't be nipping and trimming unless you're totally comfortable with your setup. Always feel confident in moving the client's foot around. And again, if you want to shut off the steamer for this part completely, that's fine. And or you can move it to the side. I know that my final step, again, before I apply that gel polish, I'm going to be etching every little bit of this nail plate. So I'm getting the dead cuticle that's on the nail plate, and I know that I'll be coming back with my cuticle nippers. So try not to hyper fixate on this. And truth is, people could have a pedicure every week and there's going to be some cuticle to nip at. So just nip what's dry and waving at you. Let that epinecium do its job of keeping infection out of your body. You'll see sometimes in my peripheral, I'll just have one more piece waving at me. I've got to go back and get it. For me, it's a nip and then a roll. I am not closing down barely and tugging. I know it can look like that from an aerial view, but I am nipping down all the way. I know right where my blade is landing. I'm in the moment. I'm constantly pulling back that proximal nail fold and have control of the toenail before I go in for the cut. Be confident with your movements. In this instance, I know that I like my client's foot to be a little bit damp. So I've got a wet or damp towel really with warm water. You can use our towel warmer for this, or you can just run hot water over a couple towels when you're ready for this step. I use the black side first, the 80 grit, and then I smooth out with the white. I think we decided it was like a 180. For more thorough motions of how I do this, go to the basic pedicure with polish. I was able to get a couple angles on that, and that's just a bit more thorough for both the callus removal angles and for the scrub and the massage. But do keep in mind where callus buildup usually is. It's sort of the horseshoe of the heel, usually the side of the big toe, sometimes the ball of the foot, like here. There's a buildup there and all along underneath the toes. It really helps to pinch the big toe and pull the toes away. Check in with your client about the pressure of that and the bend of that, of what's comfortable. For most people, this helps prevent being extra ticklish too. Just a pressure on the big toe and pulling it away from you. This also just assures that any skin is not going to get caught in the crossfires of your file while you're working a callus. And always be aware of the angles of those files. You can rub somebody raw from just simply not paying attention to where your file is landing. Here and there, I'm trying to let the steam sort of absorb in the file for me and in the foot, because I do like the foot to be somewhat damp and the file to be damp in order to do this best. You may find for yourselves that using a little bit of our Callus softener gel with a pastry brush and the warm towel on the foot for a few minutes and then going at it with the file might be more effective for someone who has more of a callus buildup than this client. I'm taking that wet towel over to get the scrub going. I like those sugar cubes so much, so I'm breaking it apart in my hands and using it as sort of a final buff on the feet. If you choose to use the sugar scrubs like we have at school, use about 1/4 of what you're used to using because it will make a huge mess. So make sure you've got a couple towels from the footrest to your lap, maybe even where the foot bath is because that scrub is going to get everywhere. So be really mindful of that and really use way less than you normally do because you're not going to be soaking it off. You're just going to be taking a wet towel in a bit and wiping it off. So, again, way less than you usually use. But do take this opportunity to kind of make this part of the pedicure luxury because some people kind of feel like they're missing out without having the soaking, and a little bit of scrub can go a long way and feel really nice. So be thorough with it, check in with them. Again, if it's a little too scrubby for them, you can always add some oil or add a little bit of lotion to it, even although I don't want you to apply lotion before you do gel polish, but if you had to, if it was just too scrubby, some hot water, a little more oil, or some lotion can dilute that scrub for sensitive skin, and or you can just wipe it off sooner. So I'm using a clean, warm towel to clean these feet up. And here's yet another one. I actually only used 2 wet, warm towels through this process. I could see where one might want 3, but you can see what works best for you. Of course, in a minute, I'm going to put down a dry towel, and after I've gotten rid of all of these towels that we've used to exfoliate with and wash the feet with, essentially, in lack of a basin. So I've put down a dry towel, and now I'm using the Blue Shop squares and pure acetone to dehydrate. And again, I want you to follow that rule of removing red polish. Just go through this. I did this process a couple times. And then you need to make sure that you have etched every little bit of this nail plate for gel polish to really last and for you to do a responsible job. Again, you don't want to leave any spot unetched, as that will create a pocket, and pockets create a place for bacteria to grow. So do this responsibly. Um, I like these smaller files for the toenail usually because you just can get in and around the nail plate the easiest with these. Make sure you're holding those proximal nail folds out of the way as you're filing. Sometimes I use my thumb to pull away the toe tip out of the file's way as I'm filing. Again, I want to see every single little bit of it etched. Wherever it is shiny, that's where a pocket could be, and wherever a pocket could be, you could be giving your client an infection. So do this responsibly, be in the moment, be thorough. And just as important, when you go to clean this up with your dry brush, with your orange wood stick, make sure you're getting rid of all that debris. Be super thorough, even if you have to do it a couple times with your orange wood stick and your brush, because as soon as you go to lay that base coat down, all that fine powder is just going to jump into it, and it's going to make this gross, crusty buildup around your polish, and you just don't want that. So, again, always have control of that toe. Be mindful. Check in with them. I know that she's got just a little thin coat of a base coat there, so I can treat it almost as if I'm doing a fill with the way that I'm going back and forth on it. But you want to make sure that every little bit of it is at whatever you are applying to the nail. This rule is true, whether it's acrylic or just gel polish. You want to make sure that you have etched every single little bit of that nail plate for good adhesion. So be thorough and be purposeful. This particular file, it's slightly concaved, and I like that too for getting in on the sides. You'll notice again, always pinching away those proximal nail folds. Where I place my finger on the file helps determine where my pressure is applied. Use your dry brush from cuticle to free edge always, just in the downward motion. Don't push the debris back into the cuticle. And as you've probably discovered already, anytime you're doing filing, thorough filing like that, there's more dead skin that just sort of introduce itself. It starts waving at you. Please go back and nip it. Get rid of it. File again. I'm getting my orange wood stick out again because that thin, fine dust just loves to build up in that PNF. So get rid of it, or else your gel polish is just, it's not going to look crisp and clean. And again, of course, anytime you're doing thorough filing, a little more dead skin introduces itself. So do keep that in mind when you're going through the cuticle trimming phase. You will get a second chance to go back. So consider might what come off in the buffing phase. I love these packing peanuts, the biodegradable ones for toe separators. And V Beauty Pure base coat is my favorite. That's what I'm using here. And not only is it important to hold the PNFs out of the way when we're doing filing or cuticle work, but of course, in order to have a steady application of our gel polish. You'll notice in this instance, it's the right pinky is my anchor on my middle finger of my left hand. Always find your anchor, go in steady. This light, it makes the most sense to try to take the bottom off of a light and go over a person's foot other than trying to guide them into a light. Many mistakes happen that way. Be sure not to flood the base coat. Sometimes we get a little sloppy here because clear doesn't tell on us the same way that black or red does. But if you have a sloppy base coat application, each layer after is going to go and flood to wherever your base coat did. So please be aware of it and cap the free edge. Be thorough and with intention, and yeah, find your anchor. Cure for 30 seconds in between. This Chan Legend line is amazing. I can get incredible coverage with even just one coat. So that's really nice on toenails because they have a tendency to get thick really easily if we even just have to do two coats. So once again, I'm more and more in love with his highly pigmented collections. They're gorgeous. I'm going to walk you through on the next foot The sooner you're aware that people have a hard time relaxing their big toes and their thumbs, the better. You're already going to have to tell them to relax a lot. So when you can sort of bend to them and it doesn't hurt your back and neck to do so or compromise your work, do. In this case, and I should have picked up on it sooner, even in her most relaxed state, this big toe here, it just has a tendency to stick up. So when I came down on the light, her big toe touched the top of my light. It left a little bit of a groove in the gel polish. I notice sometimes with beginners or maybe people who just don't really care about that sort of thing, they'll just do another layer of the gel and it still has this wrinkle in it or this groove or bump in it. The beautiful thing about gel is after we let it cure, aside from that inhibition layer, that little tacky layer that we need to wipe away with alcohol sometimes, it is dry. So after I noticed that that toenail had a little wrinkle in it, I simply wiped it with alcohol and gently filed it and reapplied the color. I don't know if I captured that or not, quite honestly. This Dimes Nails is one of my favorite toppers. It's from the Snowflake collection, and I say toppers because it's mostly sheer. It has a little bit of a pink and a little bit of a gold hint to the base, but it's mostly translucent with these duochrome flakes in it. This is where I do that repair. I go to do the second coat and I can see that there's a wrinkle in it. Take the time to wipe it with alcohol, lightly file it. In some instances, you might need to wipe it with alcohol again or dry brush it to just get rid of the debris. And then you can just go over it with your gel again. No shame in the game. Your clients will really appreciate that you take the time to fix little wrinkles and bumps like that. This will create that loyal clientele that attention to detail deserves and gets. Cap that free edge. And I'm just making sure it's totally smooth and you cannot tell that there was a little ding in there. And now, see how even in the relaxed state, that toenail sticks up a little bit? I'm just going to hover a little bit there. I'm going to make sure it's fully encapsulated, but I am resting on my finger instead of on the footrest, so it creates just a little bit of a gap so that she can keep her foot relaxed and I can cure that layer of polish without it getting dinged. This one is called Under the Mistletoe by Dime Nails, and I love it over everything. It just brings so much life to every color I put it over. It's got those duochrome flakes I was just talking about, and it's just gorgeous. When somebody picks a cream, but then they ask if I have it in glitter or can we do a little something with it, I often suggest this color. And the base color here is Tron Legends Love Struck. And as always, V Beauty Pure's top coat. It's my absolute favorite top coat. It is the top coat I've waited for my whole nail tech career life. Always make sure that you clean up any gel, even top coat with your orange wood stick before you cure it onto the skin. Take the time to care for your clients and prevent that contact dermatitis. Make sure your motions are controlled. And yeah, nice thin layer, but generous enough that it goes over smoothly. If there's bumps in your application, if that line of light isn't smooth and nice, then they're going to feel that texture. They're going to feel that bump or chip in their polish, and that's going to be annoying. Curing it for 30 seconds, always fully cure. And I'm loving this lamp from Cocoist. I also love V Beauty Pure's lamps for feet because it's got a little bit bigger mouth on it. And I like to keep any oil treatments or massage treatments until after I've applied the gel for proper adhesion, so you're not worrying about that oil or lotion getting in the way. It's just one more thing you can do to make sure that that gel lasts. Again, if you want more specifics on massage moves or how I go about this, there's more thorough angles and descriptions in the basic pedicure with polish. And there she is, gel polish removal and application.